Chief of Staff in Ladakh, spearheading tech upgrades and medical support in super high altitudes. Major General Manjeet Singh Mokha.
I have even commanded troops in United Nations mission in Ethiopia, Eritrea, where there were so many foreign countries with us. Our actions would directly impact the image of our country.
You have led at every level, from commanding an infantry company in Siachen and Jammu and Kashmir to overseeing 4,000 troops along the Indo-Myanmar border.
As a company commander, you have only 120 people under you. Or as a commanding officer of a battalion, which I was in the challenging areas of, say, counterinsurgency operations, I had about 800 plus men under me.
Hello everyone and welcome back to FaceTime with Leaders, powered by Directors Institute, World Council of Directors. I'm your host, Sunny Bancholi, and today's guest is the definition of command presence. 34 plus years in uniform. Chief of Staff in Ladakh, spearheading tech upgrades and medical support in super high altitudes. Sector Commander and DIG Assam Rifles, commanding 4,000 personnel on the Indo-Myanmar border. Brigadier NE in HQ, Integrated Defense Staff, handling strategic and operational intelligence matters across China, Bhutan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Seychelles, and the IOR. ADG, Punjab, Haryana, Himachal, and Chandigarh, mentoring 138,000 NCC cadets across 2,300 institutions. Honors and awards: Sena Medal Distinguished for Service in Manipur, Vishisht Seva Medal for Ladakh, 2 cause commendations for flood relief and rescue ops, and distinguished services respectively. Sir, truly it's an honor to have you on FaceTime with Leaders. Here I present Major General Manjeet Singh Mokha, SM, VSM. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today, sir?
Jai Hind, Sunny, and a very good morning to you. Thanks for sparing your time on a bright, sunny and Sunday morning. Just back from a long walk, early morning walk. Taking a cue from your the very essence or very name of your interview today, the FaceTime with Leaders, I just want to add that leadership is nothing else but all about leading from the front and leading by personal example.
Absolutely. So looking forward to a great conversation with you, sir.
Thank you so much.
All right. So, Major General Mokha, you have had a truly extraordinary journey, as we can see. But behind every medal, every mission, there is a story that doesn't make it into official citations. So, sir, please take us back to the very beginning. What inspired you to put on the uniform? And how did that path unfold over 3 decades of your service? Also, we would love to hear in your own words the key moments, challenges, and turning points that shaped you into the leader you are today.
Thank you, Sunny, for a wonderful question. Actually, you have taken me back to my earlier days as a youngster when I was not decisive or I had not decided what to join, what to do. In fact, you see, the life in the army, or the olive green color of the army, it runs in our blood. My grandfather was a King's Commissioned Officer in the British Indian Army rather, and he fought the World War II. My maternal uncle was a sapper officer in the Indian Army. I have various relatives in the Indian Army. But despite all of them being in the army, my motivation and inspiration, surprisingly, to join the army was my father, who was in the corporate world. He inspired me to join the army. I took NCC in school. I'm from Bishop Cotton School. I took NCC. I took NCC in college. But despite all this, I ended up, immediately after college, I ended up joining the corporate world. And I served in the corporate world management information systems department of a corporate company for about 2 years. And then suddenly you will be surprised again to know that it was a TV show, first show of Shah Rukh Khan, that is Fauji serial, which inspired me again. This is the thing which I should do. And I ended up joining the academy, and then my journey started in the army. On a serious note, life in the army is a great experience. Sharing a cup of tea with your men on the icy heights of the glacier at 21,000 feet from the same cup, staying in a same small tent with 10 men in a small constricted place with snow all around, the scorching heat of the desert or the jungles and freezing heights or freezing temperatures of the Kashmir Valley. There are a lot of challenges which we face during our journey. We have also faced a lot of challenges. We have seen buddies, risking their lives, sacrificing their lives for the motherland. But all that said and done, we come up very strong, with strong resilience, with a lot of grit and determination to come back strongly and continue serving the nation with determination. With all this said, one thing which guides us, all of us, and all officers of Indian Army, the Chetwood Credo or Chetwood Credo, which is taught to us in the academies, which says the safety, honor, and welfare of your country come first, always and every time. The honor and welfare of the men you command come next, and your own ease and comfort come last, always and every time. And this principle, it applies not only in the military, but it applies to the industry also, because you'll be dealing with men in the industry, you'll be dealing with personnel in the industry, manpower, human resource, which is a very important resource of the industry. So there comes compassion, camaraderie, empathy, sympathy, all these factors, and then leadership qualities which emerge as the one and only factor of your skills. As a young officer, I, being from the Maratha Light Infantry, was always inspired by Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. And I took a cue from his leadership skills and applied it on ground with my troops as a young officer, leading troops from the front in ambushes, in patrols, in operations. But as I grew in service, I realized the importance of strategy, vision, operational art, which I learned from none other than Chanakya. So I have read the Arthashastra time and over again and tried to learn the operational art and strategy from him. This helped me in my journey. And again, drawing a parallel with the corporate world, where you learn nuances or various nuances based on your personal skills and based on your personal requirements or your job. We learn all these skills while on the job. For example, I, being a Colonel Q in a desert formation in the desert, for 11 stations, I handled infrastructure development. So infrastructure development, judicious planning of budgetary controls, going in for special repairs of roads, buildings, town planning. As chief of staff of a corps in the high altitude areas of Ladakh, technological upgradation, how technology can help modern warfare. After learning all these skills, I realized still life in the army is a humbling experience. We need to stay grounded. We need to do our duties as we are taught. And my most humbling experiences have been, my tenures in the Indian Military Academy as an instructor in my own regimental center, training recruits, and also as ADG, training and nurturing young boys and girls to become the future of the country and future leaders of the country. I'm reminded of an incident, which I'll just like to share with you as part of a very junior leadership skill. We were part of a patrol or a ski patrol from Gulmarg, and we were going up from 9,000 feet to 18,000 feet in snowbound conditions, trekking along treacherous terrain. I was the leader of the patrol as a lieutenant. We had 10 people with us. All of us were self-contained. When we reached 18,000, I was feeling tired and I was having a slight amount of chest pain, which I did not want to divulge to anyone. And I kept it to myself and still tried to look very brave. After a few minutes, I realized that everyone is probably in the same boat and nobody was wanting to share it with me. So we all sat down, pitched our tents, lit up a bonfire. There was some person who made a hot Maggi noodles, somebody, started singing songs, and the mood livened up, and we were fresh and ready, and we went into our sleeping bags, ready to go the next day as part of the same patrol. So I just want to add here that life in the army has various experiences, and they are all very, very humbling and very, very, challenging. Thank you so much.
What an incredible start to this conversation, sir, and what an incredible journey you had. So I would like to go deeper into the operational and leadership side of your journey. So, listeners can get a glimpse of how decisions at your level are made and executed. And you have led at every level, from commanding an infantry company in Siachen and Jammu and Kashmir to overseeing 4,000 troops along the Indo-Myanmar border. So I would look to ask you, how does leadership change as the scale grows? And part B of my question is, what shifts when you go from leading small, tight-knit units to managing thousands of personnel spread across such volatile areas?
Sunny, this is a very good question. This is, in fact, an excellent question which you've asked me. What changes when you move up the ladder, or when you move up from being a junior leader to a senior leader? First and foremost difference is the direct contact. As a junior leader, you are in direct contact or communication with the men you are leading, the men you are commanding. As a company commander, you have only 120 people under you. Or as a commanding officer of a battalion, which I was in the challenging areas of, say, counterinsurgency operations, I had about 800 plus men under me. But as I grew, I became a senior commander, I was commanding more than 4,000, 5,000 people. What changed was when I was up to a battalion commander, commanding almost about 800 men. They were all in direct communication with me, direct contact with me, and my decisions, my actions affected them directly. There was a direct impact which could be seen by me on a day-to-day basis. This does not happen when you move up the ladder, where sometimes the command or the control can be by remote control. There is somebody else commanding the men on ground where action is taking place, and you are an info addressee. So therefore, what matters is your policies, your principles, your guidelines, which you have given to these people who are acting on your behalf on ground, that they do not falter. They do not take decisions which are against the very norms or ethos of the organization. So they have to do things based on the overall principles of the organization. To give you an example, as a young officer or as a young company commander, I have even commanded troops in United Nations mission in Ethiopia, Eritrea, where there were so many foreign countries with us. Our actions would directly impact the image of our country. So we had to be very careful as to whatever I do or whatever we do, it has to be in the best interests of the country. And we did that. I can give you only one example of from my younger days, when we were in the on the glacier. Now we had, communications failing. There was a lot of snowfall. There was a lot of avalanches. The communication systems had failed, and there were no contact with people who were at 18,500 feet, and they were we can't left them. We can't leave them on their own. So we have to establish communication. So with great difficulty or facing all challenges, we led a party. When there was a danger of avalanche, we went up. There were two NCOs. NCOs is a non-commissioned officer or a havaldar, or in the European terminology, they're called sergeants. I saw their bravery, their grit. Whereas I was, carrying only my pack and my weapon. Besides that, they were also carrying the equipment, which is required to fix the communication on those icy heights. A distance which could be traveled in, say, 4 hours or 5 hours, which took 14 hours to travel that distance. Once we reached on the top, the biggest challenge which was there was an ice wall. So somebody had to come down and somebody had to go up. And there I was supervising. But the people who were acting on ground or who were linking up the communication were these two NCOs. One was hanging upside down like a Spider-Man, and the other one was, climbing on all fours with, his plier in his mouth in those minus 30, 40 conditions. But they fixed up the communication, and it was an eye opener for me when I saw these two young havaldars doing the job, and I said hats off to them. But then we established communication, and it was a very, very great feat which we achieved. But that was all teamwork, wherein the role of these NCOs was seen. Now, coming on to say maybe a senior leadership role where you are communicating on remote control, or you are just an info addressee, and there are some people other than you who are acting on ground. There is another major who is leading an operation. I'm sitting, say, in Aizol. He is there directly with just about, say, 4 men, but he has to take action against, there are 8 or 10 men. So I get a call on the satellite phone and say, sir, this is what I want to do. I said, you do what you feel the best. And he comes successful. He does things which are unparalleled in history. And he creates history because he is a young officer with a lot of josh, with a lot of vigor, a lot of determination and grit. So this is how things can change. This is how you can make an impact being a senior leader. And same, I can draw a parallel with the industry. In the industry, there are very senior people who may not be directly in communication with the workers or the shop floor person who's working on the shop floor. There are people, say, in textile industry where there is a lot of cotton, a lot of other things which are there in the atmosphere. They affect the lungs of those people. But then the senior man who's sitting on the top, he takes decisions which are in the best interest of these workers on ground, caring for their health, caring for their comfort, caring for a warm cup of tea after a break is all that matters. So that's all about the change in leadership, which changes when you move up the ladder from being a junior leader to a senior leader. Thank you.
Absolutely, Major General Mokha, and the experience that you are sharing is giving me goosebumps.
Thank you.
And let me tell you the contrast you painted between knowing every soldier by name and then leading thousands and thousands you may never ever meet in person. That's such a powerful image to be portrayed, Major General Mokha, sir. And I love how you brought out the human side of leadership at scale. Not many people talk about that vulnerabilities.
See, humane side is the first and foremost thing. If you know your men, like you only just brought out, if you know them by name, you know where they belong to, you know each and everything about his family, you'll be able to make an impact with them forming part of your team and you leading them into action. In army, it's a question of life and death. It's a split-second decision which you have to take. That split-second decision, if it goes wrong, it will be at the peril of somebody's life. So that split-second decision has to be. So all that comes with training. You training yourself, you training your man, you training your men, you ensuring that they do the right drills. You see, drills and procedures. I'll draw a parallel with the industry later on, but drills and procedures and SOPs are things which are ingrained into us right from the beginning. So when you do a thing as part of a drill, as an SOP, it comes naturally to you when you have to take a split-second decision. For example, if you hear a small noise when you are in a room, when you're expecting a terrorist to be there, and you exactly turn that side and you just fire, you also have to be careful that you do not do any kind of a damage to an innocent person. So there comes the training where you ensure that you are doing the right thing there. Drawing a parallel again with the industry, in the industry also it matters. The man who's there on the ground, he has to take decisions at the split second. If there's a machine which goes awry, dysfunctional. My brother is an engineer. He's into the corporate world. He was while on the shop floor. There was an incident when he recalled, or he told me about it, that a machine had gone faulty, and there was a worker who was just about to do something to repair it immediately, which could have costed him his hand. And my brother had to shout at the top of his voice, run there and stop him from doing it. He said, don't worry, even if it is rectified 10 minutes later or 15 minutes later, it doesn't matter. The loss in production will not be so much as the loss of your hand. Explained it, did it. It was commended by his seniors who were there or in the senior leadership. So that is what makes you a perfect man. Drills, SOPs, and procedures. And like you mentioned, the humane side that you have to be always aware. There comes a factor of empathy. Empathy is knowing and putting yourself in others' shoes, what he is going through, and then taking a decision accordingly.
Absolutely. All right. So continuing our conversation, so I would like to ask you, you have been a competent financial authority responsible for public fund and major infrastructure projects. So how do you balance operational demands with financial discipline, ensuring resources are used efficiently without compromising mission success?
Operational demand vis-a-vis financial probity is a very nice question you've asked me, Sunny. If I may add, just before I give you some examples from my journey as a CFA, and see, the competent financial authority for public funds is a system where you have at various levels, you have people with various powers to sanction funds. But there are people who are, working up the ladder, making those funds or making the documentation, making the files move. And finally, it is sanctioned by people who have been vested the authority to at particular limits. But there are advisors, there are financial advisors who play a very big role or a very, very good role in ensuring financial probity. That is number one. And the number two, and a very important aspect, is to ensure that everything is documentation is correct. There are no lacunas. There are no errors of omission and errors of commission. That is a very important aspect. So we in the army or in the defense forces, we have a very methodical system of approval of funds. We give priority based on the requirement, wherein the operational priority remains always the priority number one. And then accordingly, we give priority based on what is the requirement. Here, the most important role is the budgetary control, allocation of funds in a very judicious manner, and ensuring that the funds are spent in a very judicious manner and timely. So time is of essence in all government dealings. It's a financial year. It cannot move beyond the financial year. So if you have to ensure that it is spent in the financial year, you have to ensure that the documentation is right. Now, when time is short, you can't always be, going up in a bureaucratic manner. There are times when you have to circumvent, go in a fast manner, move with the files in your own hand, go from one place to another, walk up to people, tell them, sir, it's a very, very urgent requirement. And this is the reason that we had a lot of success very recently. Operation Sindoor is a very recent example where, because of the operational requirements, things were procured, modernization was done, and we got a lot of success. So it is bureaucratic hurdles versus faster approvals based on operational requirements, ensuring that the files move fast in the same manner, but not in a wrong manner. You do the things correctly in the right manner, but do it fast by moving things personally and not waiting for the bureaucratic chain to follow. Now, here, the most important thing is to ensure that the people who are doing the duties of internal checks and internal audits, they are taken into confidence and they do their job properly. I'll give you two examples here. Quality control. Now, despite all this, you can't compromise on quality. Quality is of essence. People staying on the glacier, people staying in very, very icy heights, where wind chill factor is a very important factor for, how cold you are feeling. Now you're getting goose down feather jackets. They are being procured from somewhere. What has to be ensured is the quality, because if the quality is not good, it will affect the man who's serving or patrolling in those icy heights. A very small example of maybe an ice axe. If the metallurgy is not good, when the soldier is climbing up an ice wall, that even if it breaks little bit from front or from the top, the man can fall from the ice wall. So the metallurgy has to be perfect. So in those details, quality controls have to be ensured. People who are dealing with this, boards, officers, they go into a lot of details in the army, and they ensure that the right equipment, right material is bought, purchased in time, and given to the troops who are working on ground. Another thing is sometimes giving priority to things which you feel are very important, because funds are limited. Funds are for specific purposes. So to give you an example, my office building having a good paint on it, but somebody suggesting to you that, sir, we'll have a weatherproof or say waterproof paint on this, vis-a-vis special repairs to the bathrooms and toilets of men, which are not in a very good shape at that particular moment. So you say no, the rainproof or the waterproof paint to the building can wait. It can come later. The first priority is the bathrooms and the toilets for the Jawans, for the troops, which is a more important priority. The other example I can give you here is, sometimes you do things which you have, convinced a lot of people ki sir, nahi, ye to karna hi karna hai, it has to be done. And then finally, when it is done, you feel a sense of satisfaction. You feel that, even if funds were not available, you spoke to people, you requested them, he said, please make funds available to us. The funds were made available by them because they understood the requirement, and then you feel a sense of satisfaction. Yeah, we've achieved something. So that is how the entire system of finances works in the army, which it may not be very, very, sacrosanct. You have to ensure only one thing, that financial probity is ensured. You do things correctly by the SOP, but do it in a faster time frame, leaving aside the bureaucratic hurdles.
Rightly said, Major General Mokha, and the way you balanced operational urgency with financial prudence is both inspiring and deeply instructive. That image of making critical decisions under resource constraints is something our listeners will carry with them forever.
Yeah, absolutely. That actually makes a difference.
Absolutely, absolutely. So moving ahead, you have shaped policies for everything from training and logistics to medical support systems in Ladakh. Now, let me ask you, what's been the biggest challenge in turning policy decisions made at the top into practical actions that work on the ground?
Okay, Sunny, you have rightly brought out that they have to be, converted into action on ground. It's a very right thing you brought out. But just to add to that, policies are made to be followed in letter and spirit. But sometimes it may so happen that they look very good on paper, but it may be very difficult to follow them on ground. To give you an example, from our aviators, from our army aviation, there are times on the glacier when flying is prohibited after a certain amount of time or such certain period of time. Say, for example, after 1200 hours or after 1400 hours, there can be no flying on the glacier because of weather conditions, because of wind conditions, because of temperature. So you have a casualty at 21,000 feet, at 18,000 feet. There's a person who's sick. He has to be brought down in an emergency, which requires a daredevil action of taking a helicopter there and bringing that man down for medical attention. So here, despite the fact that the policy says that no flying after 1200 hours, the helicopter pilot risks his life, risks the life of his partner, goes there and brings the casualty safe and sound, who gets a medical attention. So that is the difference between, like you said, framing the policy and action on ground. Now, Another example. This is again framing the policy now. Here, I just said that how you can divert, from the policy because of the situation on ground. The other thing is framing of policy. Now, here I can give an example from, the ladies or women officers are doing so well in the Indian Army, that performing such wonderful leadership roles. It is at those times when the women cadets or lady cadets were training in the Officers Training Academy, Chennai. I was holding an appointment in the Army Training Command, where I was responsible for, framing policy documents for training of these gentlemen cadets who are going to be future leaders or future officers of the country. So we had a case in point where, a woman of a cadet or a lady cadet had, performed so well that she had topped in everything, whether it was physical fitness, whether it was officer-like qualities, or whether it was academics. In everything, she had topped. Now, the policy said that as far as the physical fitness standards are concerned, the tests which were given by the lady cadets vis-a-vis the male cadets was slightly different. The levels were less. So we said, as far as that girl is concerned, that cadet is concerned, she never said that you judge me in that particular manner. You have asked me to perform that test. You have laid down standards. I have achieved those standards, and that is the correct thing. So accordingly, we framed the policy that despite the fact that the physical standards required are slightly less, but these are the standards which we have laid down. So either we change the standards, which we have been done later on, or we go ahead with the same policy. So the policy was framed, and that girl passed out as a sword of honor from the academy. So this is how policies have to be seen, they have to be formed. Another example from my side, how policies can be circumvented when the time arises or need arises. You are aware that a person with a problem in the brain, the surgery can be performed only by a neurosurgeon. It cannot be performed by anyone who is a general surgeon or a general physician. There was a case in point where we had an officer having a brain hemorrhage or cerebral edema, on a high altitude post. That officer was brought down. The weather was bad. The officer could not be evacuated to, say, Chandigarh or Delhi. So the Siachen Hospital, there was a general surgeon there. He was a young major. He was not a neurosurgeon. But that officer took a risk, spoke to his seniors, on a video conferencing, performed the neurosurgery on the brain, and the life was saved. So though the policy said it has to be a neurosurgeon, but that's the requirement on ground was that a general surgeon has to do the job because of the weather conditions, because of nature, because the officer could not be evacuated in time, and the time was of very, very prime importance that time. The surgery was performed, and the man was saved. So therefore, what I need to add here is policies need to be constantly reviewed and modified based on the requirements. It cannot be sacrosanct. Nature is a very big leveler. You have to respect nature. So there are conditions or challenging conditions wherein your limits or your limits of your body are tested. So here you have to make policies which are relevant for that particular moment, for that particular scenario. Then only the policy will be successful. You can't say that a policy was made in 1947 and it has to continue today only. So constant revision, constant review and modification have to be done, because bullets, they don't see and they don't read policy documents. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the way you described the clash between paper plans and mountain realities was both vivid and unforgettable. And your honesty in sharing where policies falter and how adaptation bridges the gap, is a powerful leadership lesson we all got to learn today.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sunny.
All right. So let's switch gears a bit and have some fun with a quick rapid fire round. Just instinctive answers, whatever first comes to your mind.
Yeah,
Right?
okay. Okay.
Shall we proceed with the first question?
Yeah, please do that. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Okay. All right. So, first question of the rapid fire round: chai or coffee? How do you kickstart your day?
Obviously, chai.
Okay. If you could instantly master a new skill or hobby, what would it be?
Playing the Spanish guitar.
Okay, that was unexpected. All right. Your go-to travel destination to unwind,
Obviously, the mountains.
right? If you could meet any leader, past or present, who would it be?
Field Marshal Cariappa.
Wow. One book or movie that had a big impact on you.
Lagan.
All right. Okay. What's one thing you have always wanted to try but haven't yet?
Traveling on foot from Kashmir to Kanyakumari.
All right. Okay. And all right. Next question. If you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Stay cool and calm.
Great. Your mood lift music, song, or genre?
Kishore Kumar, John Denver.
One food you can never say no to.
Being a Punjabi, Rajma Chawal.
Okay. If not the path you chose, what alternate career could you see yourself in?
Leading operations of a very big corporate entity.
Great, great, great. So that was really fun, and certain answers were really unexpected. I really loved this rapid fire round with you. Quick exchange of personality thoughts, your personal self, and amazing, amazing. All right. So continuing our conversation, Major, morals and ethics are two most important facets of leadership, right? So, what are your views on the subject? And please throw light on this important aspect in the context of leadership in the armed forces.
Okay, so Sunny, since you asked me specifically in reference to armed forces, I'll restrict my reaction to that to the armed forces first, and then very minor parallel to the industry I'll make. Now, when you talk about the armed forces, morals and ethics is the essence of leadership. Everything revolves around morals and ethics in the armed forces. There's an honor code. We start our journey of morals and ethics from the honor code, which is taught in the academy. I will not steal, I will not cheat, I will not do things which are not correct. It is taught right from the academy. That honor code is taught to us. So, therefore, if you feel, or some people feel, that morals and ethics cannot be taught, they can be taught. Example is a professional military ethics education, which is part of the curriculum not only in the Indian Army but armed forces across the world. It is part of the curriculum even in the US Army. So it is called professional military ethics education. So ethics and morals are taught there. To give you an example, out of various examples of morals and ethics which come to my mind, what is coming to my mind instantly I can just quote is the kind of morals and ethics or integrity which you're looking at. Even if a pin is stolen, is equal to a mountain being stolen, or maybe a penny vis-a-vis $1,000,000. So to give you an example from that, you've heard about Chanakya. Chanakya was a very intelligent, learned man. So when Alexander was in India, his guide or his advisor on political affairs and geopolitical affairs, the Callisthenes, he used to take a lot of advice from Chanakya. So one fine day, Callisthenes walks into Chanakya's residence, and Chanakya was working on his table on an official document. He was writing something, doing some official job. So the moment Callisthenes entered, Chanakya told him, "Okay, please take a seat." He made him sit. He finished his work. There was a lamp which was on. He switched off the lamp and switched on another lamp and went and sat down with Calisthenus. So he said, yeah, why did you do this? There was a lamp which was already on. You switched it off, you switched on another lamp. So what was the reason for doing this? He said, see, when you entered, I was working on an official document. So the lamp which was on has been given to me by the state. The kerosene oil or the oil in this lamp has been provided to me by the government or by the state. Now I'm dealing with you in my personal capacity. So this lamp which I've switched on is my personal lamp, and I have bought the oil with my own money. So that is the kind of integrity which we are looking at, not only in the armed forces, but also in the industry. Now, there are various examples when you talk about the armed forces. Integrity is all about yourself when nobody else is watching you. When somebody is watching you, obviously you will show the best of you. But when nobody is watching, comes your best self, or your integrity comes out then. So here, what matters is professional integrity. I can draw a parallel or an example from my own, folly once as a young officer. When you're too exuberant, you're too, involved in your company. We were, in part of my battalion, we were in a peace station, and we had a forthcoming inter-company kabaddi match. So we had a kabaddi team. The kabaddi, team had to practice almost regularly. But then came our annual training firing. So we had to be on the range. So I did something which was not expected of me. I took out my kabaddi team and told them that while we are all firing, aap log piche jaake you just practice your kabaddi so that you are prepared for the inter-company match and we win it. So the aim was to win, but it was at the cost of something else. So my commanding officer then came to know about it. So he called me. He was a very cool man, and he told me, son, it doesn't work this way. This is professional dishonesty. You can't be doing things. Though I fully, understand your exuberance or your josh for winning the inter-company kabaddi competition, but you can't be doing this. This is professional dishonesty. And that is the day I learned a very big lesson, that you can't be professionally dishonest. So when I'm the commanding officer myself, if my men are there in the morning doing routine physical training, training activities, I have to be with them in the same rig, in the same uniforms, with the same dress, and at the same time. Morals and ethics, like I told you, can be taught, and leaders can create a culture within their organization of ethical behavior. And once you do that, the organization will certainly flourish. That's all about morals and ethics, I have to say.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the way you connected ethical decision making under pressure to human trust and organizational culture, it will give our listeners a timeless lesson that applies in every sector, not just military.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. So that brings us to the last question of the podcast. And I'm willing to ask you this. Can you share your experience of joining Directors Institute? And what drew you in, and how has it shaped your view of leadership, governance, and modern goals?
Yeah, that is a very, very good question. In fact, I was mulling over the possibilities of what I will do after I, re-attire from the service, because you re-attire, you don't retire. So one thing which came to my mind, that I should also continue serving in the same manner, but continue serving the nation. Now, today we have India going leaps and bounds as far as industry is concerned. We are a big economic power today. Atmanirbhar Bharat is a very good concept. So we have good startups coming up. We have young entrepreneurs doing very well in the industry. So I thought that with my experience in the armed forces, how best I can contribute to the society, to my country, as part of the industry. So while I was mulling over this, my boss once upon a time, he advised me, and he's also following your Directors Institute, this course. So he advised me that this is the best platform to join if you want to learn the nuances of corporate governance. So I then had interactions with your team, with your people, and I could understand that what you can give me is a platform where I can understand what is corporate governance, how it can be related to what I have learned in my leadership roles in the Indian Army, and accordingly apply them to the industry. So how I can apply them to the industry is what the Directors Institute has taught me so far, and probably will also be teaching me in the future. Also, policies, principles, guidelines, connecting military leadership to the modern boardrooms is what I am looking at. It covers various aspects: ESG awareness, digital risk oversight, and also having the humility to ask the hard questions. So being part of the board, being part of a board, I may be required to answer these questions. I may be required to ask these questions. But what exactly I should be doing is what probably, or what rather, Directors Institute will be guiding me and will be teaching me.
Great to hear that, Major General Mokha. And your point about stewardship over short-term action is especially resonant for modern goals. You know, that anecdote about applying a governance checklist to a field decision made the lesson concrete and very relatable.
Yeah, because you see, from the command and control aspect, or only where you are just commanding and controlling things, you have to be involved in corporate decision making. There may be times in corporate decision making also where you have to make split second decisions, but split second decisions in corporate decision making may not be very you know good. It has to be well thought of, well rehearsed, well talked about, and well discussed rather. So you have to understand the boardroom atmosphere and also the culture, and also how one can make a difference to the industry.
Absolutely. So, okay, that is all for now. But let me thank you, Major General Manjeet Singh Mokha, for joining us and sharing your insights, wisdom, and knowledge with us, your experience, your journey, from commanding in challenging terrains to steering modernization, governance, and human-centered systems is seriously very inspiring.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure and a privilege talking to you, Sunny. And especially thanks to you for sparing your Sunday with me for this conversation. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
It's an honor, sir. And likewise, I have the same feelings. To our audience, to our listeners, I hope today's episode gave you not just tactics, but a compass on leading with integrity, building resilient systems, and keeping people at the heart of performance, always. This has been FaceTime with Leaders, powered by Directors Institute, World Council of Directors. I'm your host, Sunny Pancholi, signing off for now. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep leading with purpose. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.